why Donald Trump's UN speech put him in direct conflict with King Charles. Our police dossier, which is entitled, "It is the British Who Kill American Presidents," reveals that Christopher Steele was just one node in a massive network. British intelligence has been running operations inside the U.S. government for more than a century, using American assets and organizations to do their dirty work. Barbara Boyd is one of the world's leading experts on this, and she's going to be back on Monday to bring you deeper. Many point to the CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, elements of the military, and the State Department as the center of the deep state. Investigations of the black operations against Trump go to those areas. This blob serves the international oligarchy, which is headquartered in the City of London. And as Cecil Rhodes declared more than a century ago, it sought to reabsorb the wayward, sovereign United States back into the British Empire. And here's why the Comey indictment matters. It's not just one corrupt official. It's pulling the thread which can expose the entire Anglo-American deep state apparatus. Jim Jordan fingering Obama isn't random. Obama was groomed by British-connected networks from his Harvard days forward. The indictments will follow the trail of everyone who participated in this foreign-run intelligence operation. But even if you understand this part of the story, here's what Donald Trump's UN is vast, and it's going to grow. But most people think this is mostly about partisan politics or paybacks, as Elon Musk did with his post yesterday. Now, I get it. That's understandable. I liked it. It's justified. But what's really going on is the exposure of the most sophisticated foreign intelligence operation ever run on American soil. And it didn't start in 2015 or 2016. It's been orchestrated by the British Empire for decades. And it now gives us the ability to expose and defeat the deepest and darkest ideological tools of the British monarchy. This is Susan Kokinda, and I've been tracking British intelligence operations and ideological infections in America since the 1980s. That's why I saw that Russiagate was not just a domestic or partisan issue, that it was coming from the highest levels of British intelligence, and it was launched because Trump threatens the core precepts of the British monarchy. So today, I'm going to look at the Comey indictment and show that it exposes more than democratic or domestic political operations. It opens the door to a vast British intelligence op. And second, I'm going to show you James Comey, how President Trump is challenging their system with strategic and economic policies that are unprecedented in our lifetimes. And most critically, what you need to understand to help win the battle for America in 2026. So who are the real oligarchs? It's not just rich people. The term oligarchy comes from ancient Greece, and it means rule of the few. And throughout history, those few have ruled through war, money, and ideological control. Those few are the global financier elite, which since around the time of the American Revolution could be found in the institutions of the Anglo-Dutch imperial system. Today, they are deeply intertwined with British intelligence and its subsets in the United States. George Soros is the poster child. His propaganda training and financial power comes from Britain. But it goes much deeper. The oligarchy operates through a complex web of private equity funds, tax-exempt foundations, 501c3s, 501c4s, all meticulously designed to profile, manipulate, and control public opinion in America and worldwide. And what they do is they obscure the real battle lines. They propagate ideologies that divide us. On the left, it's the hyper-individualistic of, I can be any sex or species I want. How President Trump is, they love to call Donald Trump an oligarch, don't they? There he was in Saudi Arabia hanging out with princes and kings and billionaires. There he is accepting a luxury jet from Qatar. The other day, I saw a billboard on the highway going into Detroit that said, "Stop the plutocrats." And of course, the demonstrators even compare him to Adolf Hitler. But if you're watching this, you know that that is crap. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. came out and said it in the most uncertain terms in the Oval Office on Monday when he praised Donald Trump's historic actions to slash prescription drug costs. He attacked Democratic mouthpieces like Elizabeth Warren or Robert Reich, who are saying that President Trump is on the side of the oligarchs. There has never been a president more willing to stand up to the oligarchs than Donald Trump. And I'm very proud of you, Mr. President, for your courage. But remarks from RFK Jr. are not going to stop the narrative. And the narrative is that Trump and his wealthy supporters are the problem. But the real oligarchs, the ones truly pulling the strings and profiting from the existing financial system and from global chaos, are the very people who are pointing the finger. At Promethean Action, we've been tracking their networks, their funding, and their tactics for decades. I'm Susan Kokinda, and this midweek update is going to expose who these real oligarchs are and how their primary means of control is shaping the way you think. They love to call dust, they grow stronger, spread, and become the source of other sins, and so influence people's behavior. I think this is a very important concept. Yes, there is personal sin, but creating structures which perpetuate sinful ideologies is what we are up against. These are ideologies which deny the very nature of man as created in the image of God. And this is what Trump is in combat with. Trump's UN speech comes on the heels of the extraordinary memorial for Charlie Kirk on Sunday, where speaker after speaker made clear that the battle is indeed between good and evil. Trump's UN speech took that battle to the next level. I'm Susan Kokinda, and I've been exposing the anti-human roots of the empire's environmentalist movement for decades, showing that its underlying ideology is contrary to everything Western civilization stands for, and how it's been used to try and destroy the United States and other nations. If you find value in our in-depth analysis of the real fight, not the ones the headlines give you, please like and subscribe. So today I'm going to show you 3 crucial points. First, what's really going on with Trump's foreign policy. Second, how he's taking dead aim at the empire's institutions of evil. And third, the renaissance of builders that's emerging from this battle. So let me show you Trump's recent post on Ukraine that has many of his supporters wondering if he's fallen into the hands of the neocons. Thus, they grow strong. Every globalist mouthpiece jumped on Donald Trump's social media post about Ukraine somehow taking back its territory and winning the war, and portrayed it as a complete change in his policies. The British press, of course, led the pack, with the Daily Express exulting. Donald Trump makes a screeching U-turn on Ukraine territory concessions. Win it all back. But here's what they don't want you thinking about. What he did at the UN earlier in the day. Trump's UN speech was nothing short of an outright declaration of war against the specific ideologies and institutions which have undermined nations and human progress for the past 8 decades. Marco Rubio previewed what Trump did at the UN. And when Trump delivered on that in his speech, he doubled down on the 2 policies that the UN has championed: support for unfettered immigration and the green policies. Trump made crystal clear that these policies are pushed by people with evil intentions, and that those evil intentions have taken over institutions. It reminded me of Pope John Paul II's remarkable 1987 encyclical, Solicitudo Rei Socialis, where the Holy Father spoke of structures of sin. He said one can speak of structures of sin. They are rooted in personal sin, and thus are always linked to concrete acts of individuals who introduce these structures, consolidate them, and make them difficult to remove. Every globalist mouthpiece jumped on Donald Trump's social...
If your dog has
Ambassador Steve Witkoff told CNN yesterday that Putin agreed in Alaska to security guarantees for Ukraine and legislation barring Russia from taking any more land in Ukraine or Europe if a peace deal can be reached. Witkoff said this was a game changer, and it is. But the security guarantees language is making everyone, myself and Steve Bannon included, very nervous. Today, Europe's illicit leaders will back up Ukraine's Zelensky in a meeting at the White House. They will argue for U.S.-led security arrangements and other means to keep the war going. I'm Barbara Boyd, and I've followed the British imperial attack on Russia and the United States since the 2014 coup in Ukraine. Today, I'll tell you more about what really happened in Alaska. Then I'm going to show you what you might not appreciate about Trump saying Ukraine is Biden's war. Finally, I'm going to talk about developments in Trump's battle to take out our deep state, which involves the very same people who started the war in Ukraine. But before I start, if you're a fan of the show and you haven't already, please go to Promethean Action and subscribe to our newsletter. Now, Ambassador Witkoff's statement about Ukrainian security guarantees, like Article 5 of NATO, raises a big question for me. Are we obligating ourselves to a new war if these two nations, which hate each other, manage to break the peace? Then Ambassador Steve Witkoff, on Sunday at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, our chronic infection with British foreign policy diseases began to be cured. Our founder's vision of the United States was revived. Contrary to the British agent Henry Kissinger, we were again a sovereign nation living and building and creating according to God's laws, freeing ourselves from the empire's foreign wars. But you wouldn't know that from the media. The New York Times and others implied that the Kirk event weirdly joined religion with Donald Trump's America First, Worker First economic policies. They said this had never happened before at this scale. Here's the key quote. Perhaps never before at such a grand scale has such a fusion taken place in a public display. More than just a tribute to the style of Mr. Kirk's evangelical tradition, this service represented a pinnacle event, reflecting the degree to which conservative Christianity has melded with Republican politics in the Trump era. But prior to the most recent run of total control of our foreign policy by the British Foreign Office, we were always like this. All our founding documents and all our founders' foreign policies insisted we were guided by God in a continuous mission to find truth. We fled here to escape the forever wars of Europe. On Sunday, Donald Trump is on a big roll for peace. Now it's ending the war in Gaza and stabilizing the entire Middle East. His big, beautiful bill, now up for Senate vote, aims for a grand new decade of productivity and prosperity. Some of the loudest opposition, self-proclaimed libertarians, senators, congressmen, even Elon Musk. They all suffer from a very British disease. Most people split politics into foreign and domestic policy. Trump doesn't. He sees both through the lens of the American system, a set of principles that built the nation, now almost forgotten. The real fight isn't just about bills or wars. It's about two clashing systems, the American system of Hamilton versus the British Empire's so-called free trade system. Libertarianism, it's not American at all. It's an old, destructive British virus born in 1947 that infects the Republican Party, and Trump is determined to cure it. I'm Barbara Boyd. For nearly 40 years, I've tracked the battle between these two systems, Hamilton's American system and the British Empire's free trade looting schemes. I've watched as free trade and libertarian dogma hollowed out our nation, and I've seen how Trump's approach breaks the mold, both at home and abroad. Now, if you're following our videos and like them, the best thing you can do is to go to the Promethean Action website right now and subscribe. Donald Trump is on a big roll for peace. Now it's ending the war in Gaza.